Many thanks, Catherine Nicholson in the newsroom. Yes, it's time for The World This Week, 7 days, 4 Paris-based correspondents. The World This Week with Craig Capitis, who joins us. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine.
Author of, among other things, Mona Lisa's Pajamas. Also with us, Dave Clark of the French news agency AFP. Get a good look at him. He soon won't be a Paris-based correspondent. When do you move to Washington?
After the election here, before the election there.
Okay. So
in summer.
The endless election with Dave Clark. Okay. Hamdan Mostafavi joins us from Courrier International, which gives a unique look at what the world press has to say. And thanks for being with us. And welcome back to Régis Le Sommier of French news magazine Paris Match, The World This Week, where you can always join the conversation throughout the week on Facebook and also on Twitter, where our handle is @FrançoisF24. It was the week that marked the first anniversary of the uprising in Syria, one where the bloodsheds intensified dramatically, morphing steadily into a full-blown civil war. Amateur video footage posted Thursday on the internet claims that intense shelling in, for instance here, the city of Hama, home to a 1982 massacre that perhaps left tens of thousands dead. How many dead in Syria this time around? Difficult to say. Humanitarian aid groups and outside journalists once again being kept out. But the uptick in new refugees across the border in Turkey, 1,000 for Wednesday alone, say Turkish authorities, seems to corroborate the reports that after Homs, after the city of Idlib, Assad's army pounding major rebel cities one after another. And the question that's posed, I'll put it to you, Dave Clark, is at this point in time, Assad regaining the upper hand?
I think he's regained the upper hand both on the battlefield, where he appears to have taken the major rebel enclaves, but also he has effectively scored a diplomatic victory in the kind of language we're hearing from people like Alain Juppé in France,
and foreign minister.
A foreign minister in France, and the language slightly downbeat language we heard from President Obama and Prime Minister Cameron during their visit in Washington this week. It doesn't seem like there's a momentum for war or intervention or even for stronger diplomatic sanctions. It seems like Assad has held on for this round. And if there isn't any more build-up in pressure for sanctions, if Russia and China maintain their veto, and I can't foresee any reason why they would change that at this moment, that I think Assad has won this first round.
Hamdan Mostafavi, we saw this Friday the special envoy to the region, Kofi Annan, former UN Secretary General, admitting, you point blank, that there is division within the Security Council and calling for a political solution. The divisions are not just within Syria.
No, of course. I think it's within the Security Council, and as long as Russia and China will be with Syria, there will be no change. And we've seen this week. The Guardian revealed that that Iran was helping Syria, which we had discussed before here. So I think if you don't target Iran, you won't have Syria, and they both work together, I guess.
It is an intricate sort of game of matchsticks, it seems, at this point. In our Syria One Year On special on Thursday, we showed the report of France 24's Mathieu Mabin and Alexandra Renard. It gives us a little snapshot into what's going on right now. They went to a town, a Syrian town of Al-Qusayr. They sneaked over the Lebanese border under the escort of insurgents. Take a look.
Most of these men defected from the regular army. They came to defend what was once a stronghold of the revolution. They are now Al-Qusayr's last line of defense against government tanks.
The Free Syrian Army can't fight Bashar's army anymore. We have no ammunition left, no weapons. We only have these rifles. We're only staying here to protect the people in the hospitals. If Bashar launches an offensive, we won't be able to resist. There are too many of them, and they have tanks.
The fighters are under no illusion. The town will fall back to the regime. It is only a matter of time.
Qusayr is destroyed now. Anything is shooting. Please, no one can move to stop Bashar Assad. Why? Why Bashar Assad to continue to shooting? Why Bashar Assad continue to kill people? Why?
Régis Le Sommier, Mathieu Mabin, Alexandra Renard, some of those insurgents took great risks getting them in and getting them out of there. Of course, a photographer working for you paid the ultimate price, Remy Ochlik, who died covering the conflict a few weeks ago. And yet you get the sense at this point that, again, the door has been shut and, and the Western journalists, outside journalists, are just not going to be getting in very easily at all anymore.
I think they managed to actually scare the journalists away from. I mean, with a slight exception. I mean, this is very interesting that Mathieu Mabin was able to go there, a small place there. Actually, Remy and one of our staff reporter, Alfred de Montesquieu, went to Al-Zabadani, which was a little town right before Remy made it to Homs and died there. But with this exception, I think that right now there's about two or three staff photographer from Reuters and AP who are working in the north. But other than that, I don't think there's and so after Homs, I think after the major tragedy of Remy and Marie Colvin, the regime managed to scare away most of the journalists out of Syria, and now is doing the cleansing. And obviously they're apparently having the upper hand, and on the level of combat and in the field that they're regaining.
So it's back to YouTube, Craig Kapitas, for our information.
Well, you know something? No, I say it's back to Perry Match. There was a insurgent there who said no one can move to stop Bashar Assad, and he's right. Syria doesn't make anything except trouble, and no one wants it, so no one cares. But Perry Match ran a really interesting story this week. I thought it was kind of out of the box given this. He did that wonderful story with photos, Perry Match has great photos, on Assad's wife.
That's right.
I recommend everyone take a look at this, even if you don't read French. Look at the photos. Basically, the only way this thing is going to change there is by some backdoor guerrilla action. And after reading this story, you're kind of wondering, why hasn't this woman who pals around with all the fashion designers and looks so gorgeous, and she's there blowing out her kid's birthday cake and this and that, where is she in this mix? I'm wondering. I've always believed that the only way this is going to end is if the Turks go in at some point, and I still think they will. But I'm wondering now, the story I'd be working on right now, if I on the desk, would be, what is his wife's position in this? What is she actually doing?
Actually, an interesting. I mean, you saw the emails that were revealed by The Guardian today.
Yes.
And she's living in a world that is somehow. I mean, what those emails reveal, it proved that they are actually the written by Bashar and his wife. That she lives in a world that is
a gilded cage.
Yeah.
I mean, and the emails between Barbara Walters
buying some candles and from 10,000 euros and and waiting for the candles to be shipped from England.
We hear a lot about financial sanctions, but we know that Bashar al-Assad can still download tunes from iTunes and share them with his friends.
That's right.
It makes one wonder how much. I've always questioned the veracity or how effective sanctions are, and I think whatever sanctions have been instituted against Syria, I mean, if you're being able to run iTunes, download iTunes.
No, it's not working. It's not working at all. We can see. Well, I know about Iran. It's not working in Iran. I don't see why it would work in Syria. No. I think if the question is what to do, because even if there's an intervention, I don't think Syrian people really want that. Do they? That's really.
The difficulty of throwing more weapons at the problem. The Syrians squarely divided on that issue. You mentioned sanctions. That's not the problem right now for Iran's president. Many people asking if it's the beginning of the end for Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. It's not the reformists that are bothering him. It's not the outside world. It's a purely domestic row between conservatives that's been slowly brewing. Iran, where the clerics control much of the key decision-making. Now this week, Ahmadinejad became the first ever Iranian president summoned before parliament. And talk about washing your dirty laundry in public. Lawmakers blasting him over the economy, over the fact that Back in April, he boycotted cabinet meetings for 11 days when the supreme leader ordered him to reinstate the intelligence minister. And during the discussion, Ahmadinejad did not blink.
These questions that you asked me, by the way, this was a quiz, wasn't it? Were not too difficult. I guess the person who designed the questions got a master's degree by just pushing a button. If you had consulted us, better questions could have been drawn up. Anyway, we had fun. It's over, and I gave my answers. Be fair. Give a good grade. I responded to all the questions and added extra information as well. Be fair. Any grade of less than 20 out of 20 will be unfair and rude. Happy New Year, and I wish you success and happiness.
He walks off wishing Happy New Year. By the way, Happy New Year, because it is the Iranian New Year.
Yeah, it's on Tuesday.
It's amazing. It's an amazing spectacle for people who don't understand Iran, because we think of it as a monolithic power. And wow, what's going on there?
Well, it's complicated. The difference between Ahmadinejad and the rest is that Ahmadinejad, he's not a cleric. So when he says you don't get the diploma by just pushing a button, he refers to the clerics who don't need to have any diplomas to be in power, contrary to him who has the diploma. But what is more important is that now Iranian politics are shaped in some way that Ahmadinejad seems to be the moderate one. So that's really amazing for all of us who have believed that for years Ahmadinejad was the worst one in Iran. But now it has, Ahmadinejad was looking for maybe a more pragmatic way of governing, which would serve Iran's advantage. But now everybody's blaming him from getting away from the religious principles, and the clerics don't want him, who is not a cleric, to gain upper hand. So now Khamenei, the supreme guide, is also thinking of just suppressing the president and ruling alone.
So no longer having a president's job.
And now with the parliamentary election, most of Ahmadinejad's supporters, even his sister, didn't win in the election. So now the
could he be out before the end of his term?
No, I don't think, because it's next year. So I think he will stay for a year. But you can see that now he's not very powerful. The parliament is not very powerful. It's completely linked to the supreme guide. So there's nobody there.
All right. On the World This Week's Facebook page, we got some comments from you, including our colleague Vivian Walt from Time Magazine. She wrote, "Having been raised in apartheid South Africa, I'm always aware it can be an awfully long time between the beginning of the end and the actual end." While Ed says, "I agree. It means he'll finish his term, but his attempt to diminish the mullah's power failed. We need to read the tea leaves when his potential replacements become clearer." And then there's this question from Adabong. So who is the good guy in Iran?
The Iranian people are the good guy. Really, they're searching for some government that will represent them. But, Iran has been going through many crises for maybe 100 more years. So now they've tried something in 2009. It didn't work. The Arab Spring went by. We'll see. But I don't think really that power battle now going on, that won't really change the future of Iran.
Seriously, will anything ever change?
Yes.
In Iran, so long as the military controls the country and it is a repressive theocracy. Or is that too simplistic? Get rid of the mullahs?
That's a bit simplistic, because there's not only the mullahs in Iran, and they have always
but they
been
control the country.
Yeah, but there have been the mullahs, the militaries, and the bazaris, and for 100 years, they've been fighting with each other to see who controls what. So what the danger that is looming now in Iran is actually that the mullahs would go and the military would take over, because the military are now very powerful, and the revolutionary guards are really in politics, in economy, they're controlling everything. So what could happen actually, that there could be a coup and the military could take over, and that would be a totally new situation, and it could be a very, very dangerous situation for the West, because there would be no room for negotiation.
Régis Sommier, what do you think will be the domino effect of an Iran without Ahmadinejad sooner than we think?
Well, I think I agree with the fact that Khamenei has strengthened his power. He's controlling like every different institution, and he's strengthened the Revolutionary Guard. And these people are, I mean, right now they're aligned to Khamenei. They could be, that could change, but. Right now, I mean, what we see with the weakening of Ahmadinejad is actually a new brand of conservative. It's not something more, like when you think about something new, usually you think it's going to be more towards a different type of regime. Right now, it's a new line of hardliner kicking Ahmadinejad and a more militarization of the country, which. As worrisome as it can be. I mean, Iran is already a good reason to worry, but it is going to be worse. And I think Khamenei has strengthened his power and is having an incredible grip on the country like never before.
And Dave Clark, the knock-on effect for neighboring Iraq?
Well, for neighboring Iraq, it has got plenty of its own issues. I think we were talking about a military coup possibility in Iran, and there's quite a few of the factions, especially in southern Iraq, are aligned with the Revolutionary Guards, especially the Quds Force, which sponsors some of the more deadly militias in Iraq. But more broadly, the issue of the Ahmadinejad's problems this week shows up the poverty of the debate outside of Iran when we try and deal with these issues. Quite a lot of the American debate and the Israeli debate has demonized Ahmadinejad as a kind of Hitler figure and made him the kind of personification of their fears about Iran. But he's not in charge in Tehran itself, and it will always be very difficult for people on the outside to deal with the fairly opaque Iranian regime. But the fact that we've been worried so much about this figure, who is presumably on the way out now, shows that we haven't really understood it, and now we're trying to deal with it in a very dangerous time.
Haven't really understood. And speaking of demonization, when we come back, The World This Week continues. We'll be talking about a certain investment bank, which has been in the news this week, Goldman Sachs. Stay with us.
Put me in, Coach.
Are they going to look at the link?